Alright, so if you watched the last video and you tried the last 3 problems, you should have got 8, 3.5, and 7.8. I rounded these two to the 1 decimal place. But again, you should have inputted those at the end of the video. Now we're going to talk about the converse. So if you remember, converse is change order. So now, if I have a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then the triangle is a right triangle. And then it's a right triangle. So we can actually use this to figure out if triangles are right, acute, or obtuse. So you have to be given the 3 sides. So given 3 sides, we can decide whether it's acute, a right triangle, or is it obtuse. Okay. And the way we're going to do it is we're always going to look at our c squared. So we're basically going to plug into a squared plus b squared equals c squared and see, well, how is c squared relating to the other ones? Okay. So in a right triangle, we know that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So if you test out a squared plus b squared and these add up to equal c squared, then it's a right triangle. Acute. So I use my hands, and I'm going to show you. So I use my hands like this. This is my right triangle. And if my c squared, which is going to be the length from my fingertips of my left hand to the wrist of my right hand, that's going to be my hypotenuse. If it gets smaller, then I end up with an acute triangle. Okay, notice how this angle right here at the base ends up being acute. All the other ones will also be acute. If c squared is bigger, gets longer, then my angle down here at my other wrist ends up being obtuse. So I always look at c squared to decide. If c squared is smaller, it's acute. If c squared is bigger, it's obtuse. Okay? So, again, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. If c is smaller, so that means that a squared plus b squared would be bigger. C squared gets the small end of my symbol, then it's acute. If it's obtuse, that's where my c squared is larger. Okay, so it gets the open mouth, the big one. So I just check. If I have to decide which one's my c squared, because I don't know, they're getting me 3 lengths. They're not going to tell me which one is c squared. But the c squared, remember, hypotenuse always has to be the biggest. So I like to circle this and say, okay, that's my c. So I'm going to test 8 squared plus 15 squared. How does it compare to 16 squared? Notice I'm not putting in a symbol here yet, because I don't know. So I'm going to use my calculator to type in 8 squared plus 15 squared. I get 289. Okay. Now I'm going to check 16 squared. I get 256. So that means that my c squared is smaller, which makes it an acute. Okay. If you look, my a squared plus b squared is bigger. That means c squared is smaller, so this one is acute. Okay, and that's really all you got to do. So let me test out this one. I'm not sure which one's the biggest, 614 or the square root of 160. I don't know, so I need to see what 160 is in my calculator. So I get 12.6, so I can tell that this is going to be my c, it's the biggest. So 6 squared plus the square root of 160 squared. How does it compare to 14 squared? Okay, it's just a calculator thing. So 6 squared plus the square root of 160 squared, close those parentheses, squared, it gives me 196. If I take 14 and square it, I get 196. So this time they're equal. When they're equal, it gives me a right triangle. Okay. 13, same thing, I'm going to look at this and say, well, what's my biggest side? 54 is, so that's my C. So I'm going to do 21 squared plus 42 squared. And how does that compare to 54 squared? Okay, well, those numbers are too big, so I'm going to pop everything in my calculator. I get 2,205. And 54 squared, I get 2916. So if you look, if you're comparing those numbers, my C squared ends up being greater. Okay? When C squared is bigger, it's going to be obtuse. I don't generally memorize this because I think it's too hard to try and memorize, but I do use my hands a lot to figure out, okay, is it obtuse or is it acute? That's the easiest way I think to do. Okay? I want you guys to go ahead and do 14, 15, and 16.